LJL2020 サマースプリットウィーク5まもなくゲーム6マッチオブザデイプレゼンテッドバイリボビタンで V3 e スポーツ vs クレストゲーミングアクトの試合
I
が
accidentally almost upped my mic volume to like an astronomical amount, and I just would have blown your guys' ear off the second I started talking. Glad I didn't do that. All of that being said, welcome back to the LJL. This is going to be game 6 of week 5 here, which all in one day because we don't do things on a week schedule in the LJL. Still going strong for this one. We're going to have V3 versus CGA. And this is going to be one of the more exciting ones of today. I think game 5 and 6 were both the powerhouse matches of this week, and it's V3's last chance for this week to keep their undefeated record alive. They're the last undefeated team of the LJL, and we're hoping above all that they're going to be able to pull this one all the way through to the bitter end. But that being said, they do have quite the challenge in front of them with CGA, which, if I'm being honest, I think is a little bit more of a challenge than DFM is for V3 at this point. It is kind of interesting to note, though, as V3 and CGA as teams posture themselves somewhat similarly. They both engage heavily in the mid jungle 2v2. But where Boogie is the carry of the jungle, Boogie is the carry of those two, and Ace usually sets up Boogie, it's a lot more often that Arya is the one trying to carry from the mid lane position. And with a new jungler, you know, when you bring a new jungler in, or at least any new player, there's always that period of malleability that they are when you're bringing in a new team. And I feel like Arya has kind of tried to take him under his wing and really grow him so that they can have a strong mid-jungle 2v2, while also just Arya is such a monster on the right champions. His Kassadin, he was the one who really brought Silas to the LJL. There's a lot of picks that Arya can bring out that when he gets brawling and he says, all right, you and me, we're going in the pit and we're going at it, I feel like Arya can really be set up in a great carry position. So I think the mid-jungle 2v2 is just one of the most important parts of this matchup, and it really starts to fall down to the micro in between these two players. That isn't to say that Gango is also not an accomplished ADC in his own right. In their prior game, Gango was part of the reason that V3 went down to CGA, as they were able to pick up the win there. It was also in some part to stop picking melee champions into Aphelios. But that being said, as teams have gotten a little bit better at playing into Aphelios, and hopefully drafting meta around an Aphelios has advanced. It's definitely advanced in other regions, and I would hope that LJL are slowly starting to follow suit on it. I think we are, with things like Ash Bard being commonly picked into it to just neutralize it. I think Burning Core had put on a show of how to play into Aphelios with their combos on the Aphelios, and just great placement of spells. All of that being said, I don't even want to really call it 200 years, because CGA are a well and accomplished team. They have proven themselves time and time again outside of using the we'll call it an Aphelios crutch. I just think CGA is just a very good team overall. I think Arya is such a potent mid laner. In my opinion, honestly, I think top lane as well is fairly strong from the side of CGA. And Gango is just Gengo Grendel is a great combo. Gengo has a great head on his shoulders about where he needs to be in team fights. Arguably a little bit better than Archer at times, as we did see in the Summer Split Finals. There was points where Archer was possibly even getting tilted in their series against DFM and was just walking himself into position where he would just get blown up so quickly, but we'll see how things go for both of these teams. While CGA going to be banning away the Karma, and V3 going to be banning away both the Volibear and the Kog'Maw, which is something that we haven't seen hitting the LJL show floor too often, or at all rather, but we did see that Kog'Maw did kind of poke his head up into the meta, did get the AP ratios buff, which does offer him as a poke, quote-unquote mage, and also just can turn into a late game monster if you can keep him protected enough. Is certainly a potent threat, but a lot of the ADs are going to be hitting the ban table here from both sides. Kog'Maw, Ashe, and Aphelios all hitting the ban table there. Will we see the Varus ban to round out these ADC bans? No, Senna going to be hitting the table, and that will be 4 AD bans taken away, as V3 gonna pick themselves up a Kalista off the blind here. I would have liked to have seen something with a little bit more flex potential coming up from V3 Esports. It shows your hand a little bit in the bot lane, and CGA, yeah, that's what I was going to say. Set was open in this regard, and CGA are going to be happy to pick that one up. V3, the main reason that I always kind of look at a pick like Kalista as not a great B1 pickup is it tells so much to the enemy team about your draft, and perhaps V3 are looking to bait CGA in a little bit, but Set remains a very flexible pick, and then locking in the Graves as well. Smokescreen is such a great zoning tool to stop heavy advances from the likes of a Kalista, and any picks they might be able to lock in alongside it. Well, V3 very fond of hovering over the Evelynn, likely will not be picked up here as they're going to lock in the Thresh, pairing that one up in the bot lane with the Kalista. And V3 kind of have a little bit of a safety net where you know that CGA are going to be locking in their AD carry here. You cannot afford any more bans being thrown that way, as easily Varus and Misfortune could be taken off the table, and you are digging deep for your remaining picks. But V3, the Nidalee going to be coming back, the Boogie special, one that I'm always excited to see, and with Boogie on the Nidalee coming into the Rift here, we've seen him be fairly proficient in this matchup before, and into a slightly newer jungler like Unica. CGA are going to actually do it. They hard lock in the Renekton. They will be able to pinch away at the top lane. Wouldn't be surprised if we saw things like a Wukong ban here, or possibly even an Ornn to help support the team from afar. Galio also a decent ban. Ace has been... I don't even... Ace has won every game that they've obviously won every game. But he's won every game on his Galio so far. He plays super well with Ace, and that gank assist is just so brutal to try to overcome. While Draven gonna be banned away is a popular pick of Gengo's, and I'm curious to see what they throw the last ban at. They might throw it at something like a Varus, but also might even be looking to throw it at something like a Jhin or a Misfortune, both pretty popular on the meta. And there is the Ornn ban that we were mentioning earlier. You don't want to give V3 that long range engage option to give the room for Nidalee and Kalista to start getting close and start doing a lot of damage. Now, CGA holding off on their mid lane pick as well would mean that V3 likely won't be seeing that until the counter pick, and that's exactly why they're going to be banning away the Sylas there, keeping that out of the hands of Arya. And CGA with their AD pick being hovered. They have a couple options, and there's a decent amount of potential, as Jin is going to be locked in here. And I do like the Jin pickup coming out from the side of CGA. Adds a little bit of catch potential to their comp, can play at ranges, so you don't need to worry about walking too close to this Callista or into, and it gives you enough room to dodge Nidalee Spears when they come to you. The only issue that I do sort of look at is that Jin kind of becomes gated by his fourth shot mechanics and his reload mechanics, where if he's not detonating Callista with that clip, Callista is just going to hard run him down in this lane, so it is a little bit worrying. But with Mordekaiser and Jace going to be picked up here, V3 kind of looking for something to brawl with Arya in the mid lane, as you're probably expecting something like maybe a Kassadin or any of those brawly style champions that Arya specifically loves. Big fan of those bruiser style champs, but looking at LeBlanc here, a little bit of sin coming out in CGA's comp, but not an insurmountable amount, as they have LeBlanc and Renekton, which both need a little bit of that early game love if they want to be pulling anything out here. While V3 also a little bit all in on the early game. Both of these teams have very high snowball potential, and I think this mid lane matchup is really going to be a deadly one. Jace into LeBlanc. I have to give that specific lane matchup a little bit more to the side of LeBlanc. I think the damage is a little bit easier to get out, but the return trades after W and porting back to it, Ace should be able to get a decent amount of damage out of those moments. So if you're gonna make me give a prediction after looking at the draft, I think I have to hand it to V3 Esports when looking at their comps. It's a tough one, because there isn't a whole lot of reliable engage other than chucking your Thresh in at max distance. But that being said, the Mordekaiser offers an interesting position where you can yoink one member out if they get a little bit too close. It could be Grendel just to stop that disruption, or it could be LeBlanc to stop him from getting onto Callista. But exactly what we were mentioning earlier of how each of these teams have a differing mid-jungle duo in who they decide to set up to carry. If Boogie gets ahead in this game, he is going to be running around this map popping people. And on the inverse, Arya, who's commonly set up as CGA's mid-jungle carry, if Arya gets ahead in this game, he is going to be walking around saying, I don't care who Boogie is, I'm going to pop him, along with any other squishy member that V3 would like to rely on. So this is kind of the games that I love, and I get kind of like giddy thinking about it. I'm like, these are two really close teams, really good teams, and two comps that this game is just going to blow up at any given moment, and it's just going to take that one decisive blow. For those familiar with the FGC, very Sam Show-like, where you would just, there's that one moment where somebody's gonna give in and misstep, and that's gonna be the game, right before you can even think of anything happening. While we get things started up here, V3 versus CGA. This is our showcase match for this week, and honestly, one thing I do kind of like to, or do want to talk about with looking at the stats here, and you see the goal differential as CGA a little bit in the negative. It's not the most surprising thing when you watch the way that CGA kind of play out a lot of their games. They are very much in the camp of just kind of willing to let a little bit of the early game go. They're not always the most proactive on the early game, and they typically make up for that in the team fighting late game portion of the game. Their style is a little bit reminiscent of SKT in that way, for the Korean neighbors, where their where they play very heavily for their team fights, and they play their team fights immaculately. So it sort of trades off in that aspect. That being said, this is them going in on an early comp, and they're saying, against a team like V3 Esports, if you want to go early, we'll go early. We'll go blow for blow with you, and we'll see who stands triumphant at the end. And slugfests like these always make for the most interesting matches, so... At the end, we'll see who's standing tall. I do apologize if for these next few games I take a little bit more of a lax posture. I can feel my throat starting to wane. I'm trying to do all 8 games today and then all 8 games again tomorrow. Whoo! It is not necessarily easy, but we're going to power through. I appreciate you guys all showing up today and tuning in. While we wait for this one to get started.
Brought to you by Ipopitande, the LJL official drink partner. Game on.
さあ始まりました LJL2020 サマースピットウィーク5ゲーム6 V3 スポーツ vs クレストゲーミングアクトの試合スタートです
Alright, as we're loading in here, you can see the exact... You can see exactly what kind of game this is when you look at both Ace and Boogie taking Electrocute in this lane. And Arya as well. They all know that taking that early damage is going to be the difference maker when you just need to detonate a couple members. And everyone, it feels like, is taking aggressive runes this game. I do really like that chroma from Pause here. I do actually... I believe that's the Darkstar skin with that chroma, and a little bit white knight. Almost looks like a gray knight from Warhammer, if you are familiar, but... Talking a little bit on the lanes here, the nice thing for Jhin in this early lane is that you do have a little bit of poke potential, where going auto for auto with a Kalista is usually not the worst thing in the world. If you're going on your 4th shot, you get a little extra move speed to kite away from them afterwards. And that can give you short windows to take trades. The sort of issue is the moment Reyna ever lands something, Jhin is just dead. That's sort of his bane, is that he's a very immobile AD carry until he gets enough crit to keep his move speed up and running. Well, he will get the first end of the shove off here. Pushing that one away under turret, and AI says it's dead even in this kind of a game. That's exactly what you want to see when watching showcase matches. As Boogie's thinking about an opportunity here. Reyna's walking in. He's going to get the flash flay. Landing it onto both of them is a great looking Gango. Going to have to dodge out on that spear, but Boogie's going to flash forward here. Electrocute's going to come down. That's going to be Reyna picking up that first kill. We'll see what CGA are able to make of it, as the Haymaker is going to do so much damage, but not enough to finish anyone off. Archer still held heal through all of that, so isn't exactly too worried on that one, but starting things off with a first blood there. Getting it onto Reyna isn't exactly what you're looking for, but not a bad deal by any means. Spoogie's looking for a little bit of harass here onto Unica. Reyna recognizing the situation, already rotating over as Grendel is as well. But that will be Boogie likely getting a double crab off. Unless I think Nap is already rotating down to try and secure that crab. He's helping out his jungler a little bit there. Not a bad deal for the side of CGA. Helpful lanes, help for the jungle matchups here. Is Boogie's going to be wandering over here. Will he be in smite range? No, Unica's going to get that one off, but the spear landed means that Boogie's thinking about going all in there, but with Nap not returning to the top lane, well communicated there, they're going to back away from that one before anything gets too out of hand. And so far in the mid lane, things look fairly even in terms of CS. Very unfortunate for Gengo to have to go down there even after burning both of his sums. He does come back with boots, but the sort of big hurdle for Gengo is sort of the bane of a lot of crit AD carries, where you need to be backing and getting BF sword on your backs, just because there's 3 items that Jin loves to build that all build out of a BF sword. So in that light, Gengo really would like to see a BF sword being on the menu, but buying those early boots leaves him a little bit further from it. Well, Archer going for the double Doran's Blade, not a bad idea in this matchup, as he has a little bit of a wave to pick up for himself here. I don't believe Genko has enough for a BF sword, but he is going to take that back, upgrade his boots, and delays his AD a little bit longer, but helps him not have to worry about getting run down as hard in the lane. And Paz thinking about backing here, but ends up sticking it out. Nap is slow pushing this one, so he will be able to pick up most of those minions, and Nap going to cancel his back from being out in the open. Taking a safe position to do just that, as Nap's thinking about taking a little bit of a scrap with Paz there, but really, it's sort of that game of chicken between top laners where neither wants to back and lose anything. You don't want to be the one to take that hit to your pride of, I was the first to take a back and forced to use my teleport, but Paz is going to be coming back to the top lane there. First Drake going to be going over to the side of CGA, as Unica's going to pick that one up. An early Infernal, extra damage is never going to go amiss in a game like this, but we'll see where things go from here. I'm actually a little bit surprised that Arya did opt for a Dark Seal and an Amp Tome instead of going for a Doran's Ring to have that extra HP when these scraps do eventually break out. But the Amp Tome does, of course, help get him towards his core items a little bit earlier, so the trade-off there, Arya making the call for the Amp Tome to have that one for later, is Scuttle's going to sidestep that Nidalee E. Very well done. And Unica looking for as much information as he can get, trying to spot out some info on their red buff. And really just wander forward to try and clear out some vision, but Boogie's on the other end of the map. They might have a dive opportunity, but there's a decent amount of sums still available for V3 here. This would be a hard ask to dive on, as Nidalee's going to make the call to go down there. They backbang the red side because they're thinking that's where Boogie is, but he's rotating down now. This play has taken just a little bit too long, but a teleport's coming in. That's going to be Nap. They're going to make the call to try to make this dive happen, as Grendel going to be going very low, but Archer's the one with the Ignite on him. They will be able to get the kill there and get out before anything goes awry. Great use of the teleport advantage, as Nap was able to get the better end of early game. And that's exactly how you need to be playing out that situation. Beautifully done and beautifully executed from CGA. They get their first kill on the board here. Does sort of put them in the position of they need to worry about now worry about Nap having the disconnected teleport timer going forward, but capitalizing off of that kill, and honestly Nap picking up a kill in the top lane that was not traded back and Paz sees no gold from. Not a bad deal, and does kind of help that top lane side of things. So it opens up routes for Unica going forward, where now the top lane's looking a little bit more gankable. It is still a Mordekaiser, so you still are a little worried there. And we'll have to see what happens to Archer here, as I believe, yeah, the W landed was actually what really set things in motion, and allowed Grendel to be able to get on top of him there. Not a whole lot of options available to Reina to really peel away that many members. But getting hit by the W, Archer not flashing out of that one. What steals his own fate, but Boogie on to the Rift Herald here. We'll be trying to trade up objectives. Drake for the Rift Herald, grabbing that one up and making out of there. Excuse me while I take a sip for a moment. So we're looking at the mid lane here. Arya looking for an opportunity. That's going to be the W landed. That's a long amount of roots. His ace is eventually going to flash out. Will the fourth shot land? It will! He dodges back into that one, and the curtain calls for Ace in the mid lane. A beautiful snipe from Gango, going to pick themselves up another kill. And now CGA 2-0, slightly ahead in gold. Not too terribly much, but with the Rift Herald still to be cashed in on, it's fairly even for now. And this is sort of the potential that CGA's comp have of there's one route, there's two routes. If you don't flash out of this one, there's another one for you. And this is the Jhin strength of that long range engage. And the curtain call follow-up just works so well. I'm very excited to be seeing CGA utilizing this Jhin as effectively as they are, but for V3's side of things, don't want to be falling too far behind. They were still actually a little bit ahead in gold. I had to double check that the Rift Herald was not used already. But Unica's going to be wandering down here while V3 are looking for a bit of vision. Not going to be capitalized off of just yet. CGA is going to be making the call to take a back here. Gango likely has a BF sword on his way. And he did have a fairy charm there for a little bit, which does kind of help his pushing power, which is likely how they were able to make that play happen. When you can spam spells on the wave, it's actually partially why we did see a good while ago when Jhin was a little bit more meta, we did see the Doran's ring sometimes started by Jhin, adding a little bit of extra potency to the bouncing grenade to try and shove lanes all the way through. Well, V3 going to be starting up the Mountain Drake here. They're pretty much all in onto it, save for Archer. Grendel's going to be coming in here. Going to get dragged around a little bit by Reina. He's going to go down before the Showstopper's even able to finish. That's going to be support for mid. Start things off here as Boogie should be able to finish off this Drake in relative security. Fourth shot from the curtain call going to go wide as that's going to be a 1-for-1 overall, and not the best trade if you are V3 Esports in terms of the lives of your members traded, but trading over for the Drake kind of even things out, as well as spawning up this Rift Herald to try and chunk out this bot lane turret. Not a bad deal as well. Gives a little bit of gold over to Archer. Hopefully getting him towards that Cutlass a little bit sooner, but for right now, it seems that across all the lanes, V3 are having slight advantages, save for the mid lane, but the jungle advantage in Boogie's favor is really what's kind of driving this gold differential, but they're going to look for a play here. Hook not going to land onto Grendel, sidesteps the hook, or the spear as well. Beautifully done from Grendel with some fancy footwork. Swifty's helping out a little bit in that regard as Ace is going to do his best to try and clear out this mid lane wave. Unica's waiting around here, but is slowly starting to fall behind on the farm count to Boogie. And while typically in the jungle matchup, CSDs like this aren't the most impactful, it is starting to add up, and especially when Boogie plays a champion that he can be this aggressive on, you don't want him getting a huge gold steroid anytime soon. Now, does have a full blue side to clear, so is fairly safe in that regard. And Gango's actually going to be the first one to be completing his item, grabbing up that Storm Razor. Good position for him to be in, and that only adds to the potential of this Jhin, where you can go auto for auto with Archer still, and the slow onto specifically Callista ends up meaning a lot more. So we'll see how that ends up playing out the remainder of this lane phase. But it will really be a question of how long this lane phase lasts if they end up rotating members over for the second Rift Herald here. Doesn't seem like anyone's willing to take a back just yet, as both bot lanes did show up fresh off the back. And it looks like both junglers are showing up to the bot lane as well. They're saying they know where the action needs to be, and Unica's going to be first to wander up here, clearing away that Callista ward. Ace is wandering down here. Shock Blast going to find out Grendel. Deal a decent amount of damage over him, but nothing his passive won't be able to heal him up for. Boogie sneaking around here. This is an interesting position for Boogie to be in, as the sweeper will get him spotted out once it starts negating the wards there, and they might be looking for a pivot onto Unica in the jungle here. Ace not gonna spot Arya with that shock blast there. Needs to sidestep a chain, but Arya gonna walk that one back. Not exactly a play he can look to capitalize off of too heavily. Both top laners with teleport, and ultimately what has been a dead even farm battle for both of them, as Archer's going to make the call to go in onto Grendel. Ooh, not quite going to make it over the wall. And we'll just see the re-engage coming up from Grendel as he's looking for a showstopper opportunity. Haymaker's going to do a decent amount of damage as Archer's looking to kite away from the teleport. Paz is looking for a target to ulti. He's going to pull Jhin out of the curtain call and into his death realm. That's going to be a 1-for-1 overall, but Paz is not going to quite be able to walk away from this one safely. He's trying to see if he can get his way onto Grendel, but not going to be able to knock him down. That's a 1-for-3 in the end, as V3 are going to lose 3 members. And likely be losing this bot turret as well. It's going to be very difficult for them to hold on to this one. And Arya picking up a couple of those kills, getting a few Dark Seal stacks. Things are starting to come up CGA. And we'll watch this one more time. And this was really just barely. Reyna doesn't make it over the wall. He throws a hook nearly out of desperation. And at this point, the fight that ensues afterwards is really just picking up the scraps once Grendel doesn't go down. The teleport from Nap is so good. And Ace is rotating in just a little bit too late to really get any value out of this one. This was just CGA first to the punch. And with V3 botched the engage opportunity they had, they end up getting hung out to dry. Now, Ocean Soul hitting the rift for this one means that both teams are going to be fighting tooth and nail to be able to secure this one. No flash on Grendel this time. Means he'll have opportunity, but he has X-Flashing. He's looking for an opportunity now. Getting a little extra move speed from that one. 20 seconds on that cool down there before he's able to do that one again, as he's trying to hide around here, see what he can get done. Paz is looking to wander forward. No Death Realm ultimate available, so he can't quite pull anyone just yet. CGA starting up the Drake here. Gango's making the call to look at that one, but Unica's already about half HP. He can't even afford to eat a stray spear from Boogie if it were to find him. And the burst potential onto this Drake is going to come forward. He gets a smite. That's going to be Drake over to the side of V3 Esports as the double dash from Arya is in. As V3 are looking for a retreat opportunity, Paz is just going to find a solo kill onto Nap, and realistically will just end up trading his life for it. That's a 1-for-2 in favor of CGA on the kill count. But once again, V3 getting the Drake. And these are sort of risky trades to take, as we'll watch this play happen out one more time. As you see Boogie, he goes all in, he gets the Drake, and they make the call to start backing out, but at that point, Reyna's just a little bit too deep. Grendel gets a good amount of lockup going, but can't keep his team can't keep the team of V3 locked up for too long. And we're right back into it, as Grendel might have just gotten found out in the middle of the jungle here. Well, V3 were looking for an opportunity at this Rift Herald. They find a stray Grendel looking a little bit too far from home. This will be second Rift Herald given over to V3 without much ability to contest. What I was going to say is that the trades that V3 are making for these objectives of going down 1 kill it's not... It's investing in the future, because you are taking a gold deficit when you're trading negatively on your kills. And without Drake's giving you that much gold, they give, I believe, like 25 gold. It is not a whole lot, so you're losing out on a lot of gold and a lot of time for your laners to get that EXP and gold from minions. You're trading those resources for investments on the future potential soul. That's what you're looking at if you are V3 Esports. But you only have 2 Drakes. So trading like that is, once it starts coming to soul point, you're really hoping that the gold and experience you lost does not come back to bite you when it comes to these later Drake fights. For now, they should be okay, but Paz and Nap are going to be scrapping it out in the ball lane here. Unica's roaming down here, which means Paz kind of knows he's not going to be able to get out of this one too easily. He has ultimate. He might be able to throw it down to get onto Unica, but we'll just Shadow Realm Unica. He might be able to duke it out with him a bit as he lands the E there. Going to be trying to go all in onto Unica. The heal from Jin is going to be enough to keep him alive, and will V3 be looking for a fight in his wake? Dodges out on that one, and not the empowered shock blast, so not going to make it all the way to trade that damage back. And a 1 for none in favor of CGA. No summoner spells really needed other than Gengo's heal. Paz, unfortunately, just wandering a bit too far out away from his turret. Means that CGA were able to secure that kill, and I really... This game could still go either way so quickly. While I do feel like CGA is in a little bit more of the driver's seat in this one, and Arya is really starting to come online before Boogie is. It's just, it walks the razor's edge so often, where if they find a good... If you are V3, you should be looking to keep Paz and Reyna on LeBlanc duty. You need to be removing her from fights as quickly as possible, so that she's not able to just blow up any of the carries that you need to really win these fights. But it's so hard to lock down a LeBlanc, especially somebody like Arya, who's so proficient at weaving his way in and out of fights and being as annoying as possible to the lines of V3 Esports, while they're marching their way into the mid lane, just clearing out the waves for now. Ocean Soul 35 seconds out. And V3 spawning up the Rift Herald here, hoping to use that to get a bit of pressure onto the mid lane. It won't be knocking it down. It likely won't even be seeing a charge onto the turret unless V3 can defend it well enough, but it's just enough time to give enough pressure. While Nap's on a good flank here. Here comes the showstopper, setting up beautifully for Nap. The double dash is in, but no members go down from V3. Where's the re-engage going to come from? As a spear lands his way onto Arya, chunks him out a little bit. Pause in the Death Realm, returns shortly thereafter. Good sidestep on the spear from there, and alright, CGA has used a lot here. Will V3 be able to battle this one back? Is going to be the name of the game, as that's going to be a huge amount of dead onto Archer. Just damage after damage comes through. They keep him locked up long enough. And while both teams are looking, CGA first to the punch, and that should mean they get their first chance at Ocean Drake here, unless Boogie ends up looking for a steal. Arya's doing his best to just harass. This has really kind of been Arya showing up as the MVP in this one. Boogie's gonna look for an opportunity to steal, thinking about going over the wall, but Ocean Drake goes down in time. The slow from the Storm Razor. It's really kind of, I think, what ended up being the undoing for Archer there, where movement speed impairing abilities or effects are just so potent on Kalista specifically due to that her attack speed and movement speed are so closely knit together. But we'll watch this one more time as CGA try to get things started up. Grendel makes the call to just dedicate his flash right away. Actually did not dedicate his flash, excuse me, just actually found the R raw there. They almost get Grendel down, but he does end up burning his flash in the end. And this was... I don't mind that Archer is looking here, but possibly just didn't quite respect how easy it was to get damage back onto him. Walks just way too far away from his team. RFC helps him apply the slow from range. And a good kill found by CGA. That's them tying up the Drake points. And what I think is really starting to become scary for V3 Esports here is that CGA have been so much better in these lull states where slowly but surely they're picking up an extra kill at a time. And it's what I mentioned before of you cannot keep affording these losses when you're investing towards an Ocean Soul that realistically you have the equal amount of guarantee that it's yours as CGA does. So where CGA is winning out on the exchanges but also keeping pace in Ocean Soul timing, benefit to CGA comes out in the 5 and 10 scoreline here. Arya wandering over the wall, throws a chain over the wall at Ace, but Ace doubles back in time to get away from that. Top lane outer turret is the only one left for CGA to be taking, and Nap and Arya going to be splitting the gold from that one in the top side. And we'll enter a lull state a little while longer, but when CGA are the only ones finding picks in these lull states and V3 are kind of resting on their laurels, I have to say, I'm starting to think that CGA may have this one on lock as Paz once again gonna get caught out a little bit too far from home. Almost sidesteps both of the CC abilities as he throws the R down onto Paz. He knows he has to make the call just to fight it out. He does not really have a choice. He's gonna pop the W shield, but it's not enough. You can get Arya low, but that is just a dead Paz no matter which way you slice it. That's another kill going over to Gango as he's picking up a number of kills for himself. And I sort of like the position that Gango is in right now where he has Stormrazor and RFC and he's just opting into his utility items before he goes for his Infinity Edge. You don't really need a whole lot of damage on the side of CGA. You have Graves, you have Nap, and you have Arya that are just belting out damage by the bunch. You also have Armor Shred on two of your characters between the top and jungle that will allow you to do a little extra damage anyway. You might as well buy into the utility items and make yourself more useful as a pseudo Ashe in the way your Stormrazor procs on itself. You have your QSS to get away from Mord ulti, and you have your Executioners to help cut down on the healing that V3 does. Not a whole lot of healing on the side of V3. You do have Pause, but yeah, I guess you also have Boogie's heal, but it's a little bit wishy to think that you're going to be able to, or that's going to get the most amount of value. I think it is mainly for Pause, but at that point you already have QSS to get away. So likely expects Paz to just kind of be trying to run him down in this one, and not a uneducated assumption. Well, they're going to be looking for an opportunity here. Shockblast's going to find two members there. LeBlanc is on the other end of the map here, so V3 have a little bit of time to look for something, but here comes LeBlanc rotating around. They can see her movements, but Boogie's going to get found out here as Archer and Boogie are going to be onto Arya, forcing him to back away. A spear landed will chunk him out to about half HP. That's a good position to be in for V3. As that's not a pick, but that's a lot of damage, and that means that Arya is going to have to think twice about how close he gets to this fight, while V3 going to make the call to start up this Ocean Drake, while the rest of CGA are trying to make their way in. Traps are set, the W landed, that's going to be onto Reyna, So he's going to look to try and zone away here. Nap pops the ultimate. He's going to try to get over the wall and hopefully start wrecking shop, as the showstopper is going to carry Reyna out into the front lines, but he's going to go down before it's relevant. The smite goes the way of Unica, as Boogie's just going to be forced to flash over the wall before the fourth shot connects. Paw's going to be hung out to dry, and this time it's a 1-for-1 but benefit CGA, as they're going to put themselves up to soul point.
珍しく少し V3 にも迷いが見えるなというのがドラゴン始める前にアリア選手の体力4割まで削っていたのでかなり有利な状況でのファイトだったんですよね。
That has sort of been the story of this game so far, is it's almost even, but CGA find a way to just eke out just a little bit more value in each of these objective exchanges. And now we'll watch this back one more time. Grendel does such a good job of just keeping Boogie preoccupied. It leaves a Drake at about 3k HP the whole time and allows Unica to get in and feel a lot less pressured to go for this steal when it does come through. R comes through, they try to burst it out, but Unica just sneaks on in, grabs the smite, and jumps out of that one, while Paz is just doing whatever he can to keep Gango and the rest of CGA preoccupied. And with V3, they've been playing this whole game, it feels like, at a 3k goal disadvantage. And it just doesn't feel like it's going away anytime soon. Also, Arya picking up the spell shield makes him a little bit harder to try and lock up. On top of already being one of the most slippery LeBlancs in the LJL. That is actually also another note. I do remember LeBlanc got very popular specifically because of Arya in the LJL, where in Spring Split, Arya kind of had one particular flank play that just completely blew open a game, and immediately following that, they were like, okay, we need to start banning this character, and she's racked up a fairly healthy ban percent since. While V3 are being extra careful about where they roam, they know that as the damage goes up and up and up, your room for error gets smaller and smaller, while Archer is going to be able to pick up the Death Dance here, which will help him out a lot. It's still a little bit risky, and for the side of V3 Esports, can't afford many more mistakes. Zanya's is completed onto Boogie, as well as Merc Treads and the Cleaver to help Ace so that he's a little bit more tanky. It doesn't get blown up quite as quickly. But all of that being said, we likely won't be seeing a ton of action until CGA are on, or well, until both teams are onto this Ocean Drake, but CGA with vision control around the Ocean Drake objective. They're going to try to hold on to that as firmly as they can. And this sets up a potential moment where CGA can end up slipping. And it's going to take all of the resolve from CGA, where you're about to knock down V3 Esports. You're trying to knock down the top team here. Paz is going to be forced to ulti once more. Boogie rotates down here, but the play is diffused after the ultimate is blown. He should have ultimate back up by the time the Ocean Drake is up, so isn't too worried about that one, but I do believe it's going to come fairly close. What I was going to say, though, is that CGA, they're putting themselves in a position where you're about to knock down the top team. It would be a great win for your standings, and you just need the Ocean Soul. But when you need just that one last piece, and you're forcing yourself to split your focus just a little bit more, you don't want to see hesitation like that. Is a little bit of a game of cat and mouse here between Arya and Boogie. Sort of Pandora's, or excuse me, not Pandora's box. What is the old, I believe it's like a Philosopher's moment. Schrodinger's cat. It's Schrodinger's LeBlanc in the bush there. Is it in the bush? You don't know until you face check it and get blown up by an Arya with Ignite. That being said, V3 inside track to this Drake. I would not like to see them start this up right away. They don't necessarily need to. They can try and play the poke game for a little while longer, but it's going to be started up here by the curtain call. Pulled out by Archer, as Nap's going to be rotating in here. They're kiting this one back out. So far, so good, but Nap's going to be slowed up, knocked down. The Rend is going to be enough to pull him down. Paz getting ulted in by Grendel. Ace trying to find what damage he can, as that's going to be Graves finding the kill onto Thresh, and immediately followed by Mordekaiser. Now, Boogie forced to jump away. He's getting run down a little bit by Gango, who's gonna go golden. He will be able to get away. Gango's not gonna finish him off with the force shot. Will he have enough time to finish off this Drake in time? They smite it, they get away, but the fight that is ensuing is just blinking HP bars from every member. Nobody can step close enough to kill each other, as now Arya's gonna double dash in. Unica is gonna be brawling it out with Boogie, who might have just walked himself into an ace. No, he's not gonna be able to finish off Unica in the end. A scramble is exactly what you'd expect from that moment. There were so many members of both teams just sitting at blinking HP bars, too afraid to take steps forward because you know that it's probably death the moment you do. CGA, off the back of that ace though, will be able to secure their Baron here. And will put themselves in a position. This is a great Baron for CGA, as you really need to drive this goal differential home so that you can pull ahead of CGA here. Or excuse me, you can pull ahead of V3 Esports here. Reyna whiffing on that ultimate became so bad so quickly. But it looked good as you got the kill onto Nap. And then this is just where chaos started breaking out. Reyna very low HP, then Grendel goes very low. Paz finds a kill onto him. And while they're just kiting this one out beautifully, I am so surprised that Gango was not able to find the kill onto Boogie here. He just wasn't finding any targets that he could hit with that fourth shot. And in that time, V3 make the call to burst out the Drake and run for the hills. Ace and Paz trying to do what they can to trade something back, but just barely. A spear not landed onto Gango means he lives out on that one. And Boogie, this was a little bit greedy from Boogie to try and go for, but a good sidestep at that close range from Unica with some fancy footwork there means he's going to live out in the end. Chain landed onto Paz, but he should be able to get over to safety away from the Arya. And opening up the map a little bit further with this Baron definitely helps Arya in having more room to lurk and start just waiting around corners, throwing up wards and saying, nah, I'm going to pop over the wall, I'm going to land an E, and then I'm going to pop back. And it's just so hard to really lock down a player like Arya on this LeBlanc. But as we're starting to crest into a lot of these players reaching their full builds, it started to get a little scary for both teams here, as CGA 3k gold in the bank from this Baron is not a bad deal, almost cresting up to a 10k gold advantage, which you don't need to end the game here. CGA do not need to get overzealous. They can just wait until this next Ocean Drake and grab the Ocean Soul if they so choose. This is really just sizing up their wallets and loading up a decent caliber, but Reyna's going to start things off, getting thrown in there with the ultimate. This might be a good fight for V3 Esports, as Reyna is going to be able to live out on that one. Mordekaiser finding the first kill to start things off, but the 2 kills traded back from CGA. Have V3 been routed? It's a 1 for 3 overall, as V3 were not able to follow through on that fight. It's just too difficult for Archer to stay in there and do the damage that he needs to. As now they're going to hold on to the scraps of their base. Will CGA be able to end it all here? Or do they take the defensive posture and just move back for the Ocean Drake? They're going to look for a potential game, and they don't have the most amount of minions in the world. But it might be enough, as Ace is just going to get detonated by Arya, popping off in this one. Arya might have just solo carried them to victory, as CGA are on to the Nexus now. There is only one member of V3 Esports, and he is not enough CGA do the impossible. They dethrone V3 Esports, finally putting them at 9-1, and CGA finding now the only team to take a game from them. What a game, and it came down to the tooth and nail fighting that CGA had to undergo. But in the end, they come out on top. Just slowly but surely, they chipped away. A kill here, just a slight trade up here. And the investment that V3 committed, where you're saying we're fine with trading a couple kills over, we'll get Ocean Soul later, didn't end up paying off. It just took too long, and you made the investments, but they didn't quite pay off, and CGA came out on top of that one. What a game! I'm gonna be taking another quick break before we go into Game 7 here. Thank you all for sticking strong with me during this whole stream. I am doing my best to hold it up, but appreciate you guys holding it down alongside me. Gonna be muting myself, taking a quick break. Don't go anywhere.
どういった意気込みで臨まれました？
まあ少しでもブギ選手に負けないようにというか感じですね。
あ、やはりそのブギ選手っていう強力だなっていう印象はあったんですかね。
はい。
なるほど、そこに対して負けないようにということなんですね。そして試合はかなりその終盤までもつれという感じではあったんですけど、どのあたりで勝利を確信されました？
なんかもう序盤で結構アリアスさんとガンゴさんが育ったんで、もうこれはいけるんじゃないかって感じでしたね。
あ、もう意外と早かったんですね、試合の勝利を確信した段階っていうのは。
そうですね。勝てるんじゃないかなっていうのは思ってました。
なるほど、ありがとうございます。それではこれからも頑張ってください。
ありがとうございます。
それでは最後に続いての SHG との対戦に向けて